Morning everyone, thanks for tuning in again, I really appreciate that. And in this video I want to talk about a short trade. Yes, this punchline isn't with intent. We're talking about NIO Stock here, and if you watched my last videos I've been talking about a potential break of this downtrend here in this blue line downtrend channel, which we now have sort of a confirmation. I mean, it's just 3 bars now in a pre-market. It's trading almost at 6 USD. You never know, this can be fluctuating quite a bit and it's volatile. However, I want to talk here a little bit about the fundamentals and why I think NIO Stock could make all the way up here to around 8 USD and what that would mean. Because I also mentioned in my last video that NIO is one of the most hated stocks, so it's one of the most shorted stocks out there. If I query Chinese stocks with more than 10% of the float shorted, these 12 names come up. I don't know, I've never looked in most of these companies. The only other ticker that I know is EHang and ITE, but seeing NIO in line with some of these very unknown companies, well, Weibo is also a big one, but it really is striking that NIO is one of the most shorted stocks out there. And if I'm not wrong, it's currently still about 200 million shares short. Let me take a look here. The short interest might be around, it's still growing, 194 million, so almost 200 million shares short. Now, what's the situation here? Well, if you watched my channel, you know about that. We've talked about stimulus in China, and I mentioned that after the third plenum, most likely we'll see more of it gradually. So now the last couple of days had quite a bit. Actually, I can't go in all of those different stimuli that have been offered by the policymakers in the last couple of days. Usually I always hear like, there's no stimulus or it's not enough and whatever. If you really look closely, there has actually been quite a bit already. But even today, I still see lots of people talking about like, oh, this will not be enough. So we've got lots of doubters out there, and maybe that's good. This could fuel what I would say might be a costly short trade here, but the short trade up in NIO stocks. So we're looking here at around 200 million stocks or shares that are shorted in NIO. And today NIO trades at 565. So to cover that position, it would be roughly more than 1 billion USD. If you can buy them back at this exact price, then you would have to buy more or invest more than 1 billion in order to buy back the 200 million shares that have been shorted. If my target is right and we're going to around 8, actually going through this a little bit of a resistance at 7, then this quickly comes to 1.6 billion. So the delta here, meaning the price change, would amount to almost $500 million. And that's kind of losses for the short sellers, because if they cover today, right, then it's obviously cheaper than if they cover at 8. And what would this mean for NIO Stock? Well, the market cap would rise from 10 billion, which it's currently at, to around 15 billion. And the price to sales ratio from 1 to 1.5. So you can see, NIO is such a cheap company currently in terms of a price to sales ratio metric. And we can't use price to earnings because currently NIO is still an unprofitable company. But usually what you attach to startups and growing startups like NIO is, you would use the price to sales multiple. And usually you won't see anything close to a 1. If a company is growing like NIO does between 30 and 50% year over year, I mean, some people out there are willing to pay 4 or 5 and up to 10 price to sales for such companies. So even if it's growing to 8 USD a share, at 1.5, one could argue it's a fairly valued stock still on this metric. I mean, there's arguments around everything, but given where we are, that now China tries to make this correction back to the mean, I would say, comparing to where it's valued at, all of the tech stocks and so on, it wouldn't be unreasonable to say, well, we're going to close this gap here to 8 USD a share in NIO Stock. Obviously, then there would be a huge resistance coming up for this downtrend, which would be this larger channel in which it's been trading at. So I would expect that this would be pretty much more difficult to break through. But you know, given with all what's happening, that wouldn't be out of the world as well, that this could happen. And so that's the problem for the short sellers, because they are basically facing unlimited losses here. You know, if they're not covering their positions, it could get even more expensive with each of the moves up. But let's stay realistic. We know NIO stock is volatile to both sides. I'm not saying that we're currently already for surely breaking through this resistance here. It's looking good though, and the macros are aligning accordingly with the Fed cuts. And then I'm expecting more stimulus to come after the elections in the United States, and with more cuts to come, I expect even more support from the Chinese policymakers. But we'll see. I'll definitely have you covered on this here on the channel. Thanks for watching. See you in my next videos.